Good morning, everyone, and welcome to iGate Television and Radio. Welcome to iGate Radio and TV. Welcome to the newspaper headlines review, and this is a combined broadcast of radio and TV, the newspaper headlines. So joining me today to explore this program. But before that, my name is Benjamin Gutsav, and I have my co-anchors well.
And I'm Fanen Kwano. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, today we have another panelist, of course, one who has been with us always, to give us perspectives on the issues that happen in the papers, majorly the front page of the papers. So we have Tavia Kasi, seasoned journalist, in the studio with us.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah, thank you very much. And without wasting much of the time, we will go into what the papers are saying. But of course, we start with iGate newspaper. And the banner headline of iGate newspaper carries that enforce anti-open grazing law. Achadu tells Alia, or rather, Achadu to Alia says law designed to reduce farmers' hardship. That's the banner headline. But just another story there to pick up. It's flood control. FG to construct dam at Dura in Benue State. Above the nameplate, you have a new wave of human parts theft discovered in Benue State. And another story there, you have still on flood, more Benue communities submerged, farmlands destroyed. And Nigerian government rejects Shell's plan to sell Nigerian order of 511 by herdsmen. These are the stories we have on iGate newspaper. But the big story we have to take here is the enforce anti-open grazing law, Achadu tells earlier. So,
House of Representatives member representing Gwe West, as Gwe East, Gwe West Federal Constituency, Honorable Agitate Asema Achadu. He has been on this for a while now, and I am not surprised. He's intensifying the call Olotom in the process of enacting that law. Remember, the law was made when His Excellency Otom was in the APC legislation in place, and he is one of those stakeholders who stood strongly behind the former governor to make this law. And he knows the importance. He knows what is in the legislation, that if it is implemented. Remember that at a time, herders were not seen around Benue communities moving with cattle. And anytime the herders were found, the livestock guards quickly moved in and impounded the ones that breached the law. And that brought some sanity. Of course, there is nowhere in the world that laws are not broken. And that is why penalties, that is why punishment is attached to any law, especially on human conduct. So calling on the present governor now to enforce the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law is a patriotic call. It goes to show that Honorable Achadu knows what it means, that there will be the relative peace that we hear now can only happen when the law is enforced, because some of these people don't understand any other language except you enforce the law. You may be asking for dialogue, they will come sit and talk, but it's only when you enforce the law that they understand that, oh, this is no joke. So I expect that His Excellency Governor Hyacinth Alia will heed the call, will listen to that call of reason, the voice of reason by the honorable member representing Gwe East. Well, because a lot of people are dying. A lot of people have been displaced from their communities, and this is no longer funny at all.
Now let's look at this in line with what the federal ministry just did, a new creation of the livestock ministry. The federal government is creating a Ministry of Livestock and Development, and here is a law. How do you marry the law and that ministry?
Well, it's a good question. An attempt was made in the past during the Buhari administration to introduce what was called the National Livestock Transformation Plan, NLTPL, NLTP. Now, Benue made its stand very clear on that proposed law, that Benue State would only be part of that legislation if it conformed with provisions of the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law of the state. And both in Abuja and the team that was sent to Benue to discuss how the NLTP will be implemented, the state government delegation made it clear that Benue State would only accept and embrace the National Livestock Transformation Plan if it confirmed or conformed with the provisions of the state law. So, my expectation is that there is a legislation here which has not been repealed, even though the present government is not enforcing the law. If we want to really, go by the standards of where laws are respected, I think the federal government should not impose the practice of livestock on states, because agriculture is not on the exclusive list of administration in this country. That is why federal government, states and local governments have the power to legislate on agriculture. And animal husbandry is part of agriculture. So if you want to, yes, the federal ministry is there. The ministry can, make policy, but states should be allowed to operate, to practice animal husbandry as it best suits their terrains. For instance, in Benue State, we are an agrarian state. Agriculture is our mainstay. That is why we are the food basket of the nation. So if you come and you want to enforce, to impose the livestock brand, the brand of livestock practice that is alien to the people of Benue State, I foresee a contradiction. I am not predicting any wrong thing, but okay. I expect that the policy by the Ministry of Livestock, yes, should carry out its policy formulation in accordance with the peculiarities, with the realities on ground in each of the states. And because if you go to Sokoto State, for instance, Sokoto may not be an agri-based state like Benue. Perhaps there, animal husbandry is the mainstay. So the policy of that ministry may apply to Sokoto in a different way than it may apply to Benue State.
Okay, before my colleague here will ask you a question, I just want to ask you, looking at the Ministry of Livestock and the law here, what should the governor of Benue State be canvassing for? What should it bring to, or what will you tell the governor to go to the table of negotiation with the federal government in respect to that ministry?
Now, first of all, I am an advocate for states going into animal husbandry, going into livestock promotion. That is why the law that the Otom administration made has a branch that promotes livestock. Like, that's why it is called ranching. That's the second part of that law says ranches establishment, okay? Which means Benue State recognizes the fact that agriculture has components. You have crop farming, you have livestock, and different other ways. You have even greenhouses at the order of the day now. So if I were to advise His Excellency Governor Hyacinth Alia, I would tell him, let's look at what that ministry is doing and be realistic to ourselves. Between livestock farming, between livestock production, animal husbandry, and crop farming, what is the percentage? Okay, perhaps crop farming has 70%. livestock has 30%. Now, what the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development will be doing, Benue should embrace it with this reality, okay? Knowing that already there is a law here that provides for ranches, for the establishment of ranches, and people are asked to put their animals in ranches. Now, marry what the ministry is going to be doing side by side. Marry it with what your state already has on ground. And that way, there will be that balance that will give both the crop farmer mileage and the livestock farmer mileage. I think that is the way Benue, in my opinion, the way Benue should look at what the policy that the Ministry of Livestock Development is going to be doing.
All right, thank you very much. So, married, livestock, and crops farming. Well, that takes us to our next newspaper, which is the Punch newspaper, and it comes with this banner headline: Federal government invite unions at strike grants varsities. And by the way, it has a kicker: no work, no pay dispute. And then it has a rider: SANU, NASU leaders enforce strike across varsities. NANS asks federal government to resolve crises. And then besides the nameplate, you have federal government needs 19 trillion naira to complete over 2,000 roads. And that's coming from the Minister Umahi. Okay, down there you have North blackout. 19 governors meet. President deploys troops against vandals. It is 10,000 naira fine for violent protest. Ghana eyes fuel imports from Dangote refinery. So these are some of the headlines we have on the Punch newspaper this morning. But the big issue here seems to be the no work, no pay dispute, between the federal government and university, workers. So this issue has been lingering for long, Chief.
It's quite sad. It's quite unfortunate that in this century, where other countries are fast advancing in terms of tertiary education, we are at the basic, we are at the basis, we are still discussing industrial disputes. Federal government makes a promise, reneges on that promise. Unions, take to the streets or down tools, and the students and parents are the ones who suffer. This is quite sad. The giant of Africa should lead by example. Nigeria in this era, in this century, should be trying to aspire to have some of the best universities in Africa. People should be coming from across this continent to acquire education in this country, because we have some of the best brains in the world. But you know what? Those best brains prefer to go and ply their trade abroad because the environment here is not conducive enough, and the welfare package is not encouraging. I wish to appeal, I wish to beg Mr. President. The buck stops on his table. That's why whatever we say, he holds the big hammer. So inviting the unions to the round table, this has been going on since the time of Obasanjo, up to Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari, and now we are here with President Tinubu. When will this end? For once, let's tell ourselves the truth. United Nations is very clear on education, that 25% of the annual budget of every country that is affiliated to the UN should go to education. When unions agitate, I don't think they are agitating that money should be given for their stomachs. No. Go to some universities and see the deplorable condition of classrooms and laboratories. It's a shame. It's a shame that the giant of Africa, a country that produces some of the biggest amounts of oil in this world, cannot take care of its institutions. What are we talking about? Nigeria's money is abroad, stashed in banks. Now, I wish to appeal that the federal government should not look at the unions as making empty noise. I don't think the unions are asking for this money or for better conditions of service for themselves. It's not, I don't think, because I'm in a university, I know that if, now you go to some offices of some lecturers, there is no fan there. There is no, you don't talk about AC.
They have lecturer AC.
Now, how do you expect a professor to sit in an office without air condition, but you expect him to provide the technical the know-how to provide the research that is of global standard? No, you won't have that. You have, first of all, to make that person comfortable for him, for the ideas to begin to generate.
Yeah.
This is common sense. So I wish to appeal to the federal government to look at what the unions are saying. Let's not say, hey, these unions say they make too much noise. Their noise is important noise.
Okay. All right, Chief, just before we move, the main issue here has been no work, no pay. And then at some point, if I remember well, the federal government, the president had approved some monies to be paid to these people, clear their arrears. And then some part of the unions, I think the Academic Staff Union of Universities, were settled. They're coming to NASU and SANU, it has been hanging. So, where has the money gone to?
Quanum, let me say this again.
But before you go on, I just want to also add to this that you should also understand that where the strike is coming from, it's the failure of government to pay the 4 month salaries withheld following the 2022 strike.
By the same salaries were approved. So where is the
So
money?
it's almost the same no work, no pay issue that is coming up here.
See, this thing that government says no work, no pay, I am not a supporter of that policy. But it keeps happening. It's quite sad. Now, unions don't just go on strike or protest. There are stages of negotiation. Before unions embark on any strike, they give a notice. And in that notice, they raise the issues that at so time we expect that this be done. Before a notice is given, there are negotiations that go on behind the scenes. Primary schools should be funded better than many other sectors. This is the truth. Fund education. Fund it well. Because it is only when you get the best, any country that wants to compete with other countries must prioritize Benz and the others. They are products of research. And that research, most of it comes from the university classroom. And laboratory, go to Germany, go to other parts of Europe. You go to some of the industries. The people who are making the things you see are students on industrial attachment. Because their universities have trained them and prepared them to have the mental, the intellectual capacity to be able to produce. Some of the things we use here are made by students.
Okay.
So it is only when you have the educational system that works that you can have development. So we should stop pretending about education. We should give attention. Let's not allow our university to go on strike for whatever reason.
Okay,
that's my opinion.
Before we go on and we leave this topic, just to add, to ask you this, we've read a couple of times and also saying that in those days, Nigeria, of course, is known as the giant of Africa. In those days, the neighboring countries would come here, students from neighboring countries would come here to study and go and all of that. Now Nigerians are going out to go and study. In places like Ghana and all of that, Benin and all, of course. Where did we miss that particular train we were going on, that path of success in the academic section, in the education sector?
Corruption. Number 1, corruption. Number 2, corruption. Number 3, corruption. There is no alternative. It's corruption. Because over the years, over the decades, allocations will be made in certain sectors. And those who were asked to do certain things will prefer to embezzle the money. Now, the system continued to fall. The system continued to collapse. And then, to Dubai and import. People prefer to go to China and give instruction to manufacturers there to produce generators that bear Nigerian names. You go to high level, go to Urukum, go to other parts of Makudi, you see generators bearing Nigerian names. Which means Nigerians have gone to China to tell the manufacturer, produce this set of generators, name them Igwe, name this one Ovesi, name this one that. Because the manufacturer there is ready to give you that. So our people now continuously began to, to look at going abroad to get things. Because if you import, you make profit. So even government officials, top government officials, began to get interested in these things. And now, do you know why housing? Let's look at a typical example. You know why housing system collapsed in Nigeria? It's because top civil servants at the federal and state levels began to build personal estates to give out as rent for their personal money. So, for people in ministries of works, ministries of housing, for instance, they would prefer to give, to have their own housing arrangement where people come rent and so on. So you don't expect people like that to still to support or originate ideas for government to provide services for the people. Now, look at the medical sector. People who work in public hospitals, in government hospitals, will have their own private hospitals. And they are providing services there. When you go to the general hospital, which is owned by government, they will refer you to a private hospital in town. You don't know that that is their own hospital.
The same as pharmacies as well. So
the same thing is happening in education. Some of these people who should have made policies, who should have made good, who have provided, who should have equipped our universities, our secondary schools, and other colleges, now have private schools, permanent secretaries, directors, commissioners, ministers. They have private schools. So how do you expect a minister of education who has one of the best private secondary schools in Lagos or Abuja to still look at how government schools will function better?
Is in competition with...
That's it. So it's a clash of interest. It is not possible. So over the years, this kept, affecting the Nigerian public sector up to where we are today. So that's why I said number 1, corruption, number 2, corruption, number 3, corruption.
And there's no way out, you think?
There is a way out.
Okay.
And the way out is for Nigeria to make stiffer sanctions on corruption, evolve stiffer penalties on corruption. And when we say corruption, people tend to look at politicians only as those who are corrupt. I tell you something. The highest level of corruption is in the civil service. I have been in the service. I know what happens there. The highest level of corruption, in fact, when you are made a commissioner or a minister, the people who teach you how to steal are permanent secretaries and directors. Because they tell you, sir, Honorable Minister, sir, you know that here, now so we they do. They bring a memo they draft a memo for you to present in Exco, and they add things there and tell you, sir, this is how it's done. This is for government. This one, of course, this percentage will go to you. This one for PAMSEC, this for the director. And you approve. Now, that is how it is. But Nigerians forget that the main corruption, the part that has rotten so badly is the civil service, the public service. I'm not accusing any particular state. or any particular ministry of the federal government, I'm generalizing this, where there is a rot that if care is not taken may affect this country more is the public service. Because commissioners, ministers come and go. Those ones are permanent. In fact, some of them are called permanent secretaries. They are directors. They don't move anywhere until they retire. So if you are a commissioner, maybe just a year or two, you are sacked. And then, but the people who made you to be sacked are those who are permanent there. Nobody mentions them. They get their cut, they remain there. The commissioner is blamed and he's sacked.
So the EFCC...
So I am saying that there is a way out. And the way out is for the policymakers of this country to to increase the volume, to tighten the knot against corruption. And don't just look at political appointees. Extend that dragnet to the public service. There are people who are never seen. You don't know them. You don't hear about them. They are the ones who are spoiling commissioners and ministers. So until the EFCC and ICPC extend that dragnet to the public service, including those who are still in service, not only when they retire, that is where you begin to get it right, because that is the basis of corruption. I have just given you an example here. So there is a way out.
Yeah, for instance, Chief is trying to say that Nigeria can take a cue from countries like Indonesia that has a capital punishment for corruption, and maybe this would help
I was asking, I wanted to ask him what kind of punishment he would like to...
Well, China has done something like that. In China, I have not read their law, but I understand that if you are found guilty, you are killed. I'm not asking Nigeria to do that, but I'm just citing an example of what happens in China. So people are afraid in China to be corrupt. If you are corrupt and you are found and you are tried and you are found guilty, then you are killed.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going on a short break, and when we come back, the newspaper headlines review continues. Go nowhere.
To someone, then you don't have to be faithful to that person.
When you're talking about fidelity and trust, you could be faithful, you could be loyal, and if your partner feels or perceives you are not, does that mean you are not?
Appearance could make someone not be faithful. Sometimes you have a partner that don't really look at the needs, your needs. I'm talking about the financial aspect. Doesn't look at your needs, and then there's someone that sees
the lady in you is screaming needs. And you feel like with communication we can solve the issues of infidelity.
Yes, with communication, I know that.
You're welcome back to the program, and just to remind you that this is a combined broadcast. You're also listening to this on radio, and at the same time you can watch this on iGate TV. And we're analyzing, or rather looking at the newspaper headlines, and we have analyst here giving us shades of perspectives on the headlines. It's Tevek as a seasoned journalist. And we continue with the Nation newspaper. And it has this banner headline: North leaders reject VAT plan and livestock reform and security. Already talked about the livestock issue. But before that, just the bottom of the paper there, you have President excited by state's compliance with minimum wage payment, says Akume. That is one thing we will look at since we've talked about livestock reforms and all of that. Okay, let's look at this, the bottom of the paper, where President says he's excited. Mr. President is happy that states are complying with the new minimum wage. Some states are paying even higher than 70,000, and some are not paying, are paying exactly 70,000, but some haven't. What is your take on some of those who have delayed?
Well, this is what is going on now is a clear indication that the federal government needed to put the national minimum wage far above 70,000. If states, federal government has are offering 85,000, 75,000, 80,000, majority of the states have offered more than 70,000. So that tells you that the federal government was not fair to Nigerian workers under its employ. Now, I must commend the states that have, already implemented the national minimum wage. That is being proactive. That is commendable. But, I'm not surprised because a lot of money is accruing to the states now with the, since subsidy was removed by Mr. President on May 29. The allocation to states has gone beyond 3 times. It's in the region of 400%, over what was coming to them. For instance, if a state was getting 3.5 billion or 4 billion a month now, that state is taking far more than 10 billion, right? Around 13 billion. So with so much resources at their disposal, I am not surprised that many states have already, imagine a state like Enugu, which receives the same allocation with Benue State, has offered 80,000. That's commendable. Civil servants in Enugu will be dancing a willow as we speak because it's bonanza to them. I mean, someone who was on 18, who was on 30,000, suddenly has 50,000 increase to his salary. That is something that at least we cushion. We give some succor to that worker who perhaps has a family to fend for. So for those who are yet to act on the national minimum wage, well, they are, yes, because from the day the national minimum wage was enacted, was approved and signed by Mr. President, it became a law. And from that day coming forward, whatever if you have not paid since that time, it means you are attracting arrears. Arrears are accruing, and workers will demand for the arrears when the time comes. That is why it is called minimum wage arrears. So for states who have done it, commendable. Kudos to them. For those who are yet to do, I wish they do, because they have a lot of money now, far above what used to happen in the past. So that's my take on that.
Some state governments have moved, to make some legislations against this national minimum wage. For instance, Abia State, they came up with a legislation that made 90% of the allocation under the control of the state government, and then 10%, leaving 10% to the local government. Although the NLC in the state got up to say, no, do not accept this bill. So my question here is, what is the role of the organized labor in the various states in the implementation of this minimum wage?
You see, once a law is passed and it becomes a federal laws supersede state laws. That is why anytime there is a conflict of legislations, federal laws will always take precedence. So I'm not foreseeing any problem in Abia State, because what the governor, I'm yet to get details of what he just said, but I don't think any state governor, the economic advisor of any state governor will encourage him to go against a federal law. The national minimum wage is a law. What it means is that it is called minimum. Minimum means that is the baseline. You can only go higher than that. You can't pay less than 70,000. The least paid worker in your state has to take 70,000. That's what it is. That's why it is minimum. So a state is free to pay as high as 200,000 naira. That's why some of them are paying 85,000, 80,000, 75 in that order. So I don't expect any state to bring up a legislation that seeks to water down, to counter a federal law which was enacted by the National Assembly and passed by the National Assembly and signed by Mr. President. You know, the other day I saw stories of some states making laws in their various states to you know, try to find ways of getting something from the monthly allocations of local governments. Now that the autonomy for local governments has become a law, and I said, do they know what they are doing? The federal government is the one sending the money to the local governments, and the procedure is on for local government accounts to be linked with the federal government, which means from November, every local government will begin to get direct alerts from the central bank, as the case may be. So, if a state makes a law now, trying to find ways of local governments remitting their monthly allocations to such a state, that state is wasting its time. And don't forget that local government chairmen don't have immunity. So ICPC, EFCC will go after them if they try it, because the monies are tracked. And the Minister of Justice has said that any local government that tries any funny move, that local government chairman will be picked up by security agencies. So when I saw that story, I was saying these people are wasting their time, because the federal government is very serious about this issue of autonomy. And so the same thing is applying to the issue of minimum wage. I don't think they should make such laws.
I've also read that EFCC has come up to say that their eyes are on the local government chairman.
They don't have immunity. So if they try any funny thing, they will be picked up.
Yes.
Trying to remit money to the state governments in whatever guise. Such local government chairmen should be arrested, because it's a breach of the laws of this country.
All right, that takes us to our next paper, which is the Nigerian Tribune. And then it comes with the banner headlines. Northern governors reject tax reform bill. With a rider, meet traditional rulers, CDS over insecurity. Blackout, federal government plans alternative solutions for northern states. Court orders final for future of multi-million naira hotel linked to Nouns ex-VC as the National Open University of Nigeria's ex-VC. Okay, above the nameplate we have CJN summons FHC CJ to be quizzed today. Southeast lawmakers may move to black screening of ministerial nominees. Southeast lawmakers may move to black screening of ministerial nominees, with a rider say Ogun with 4 ministers is a violation of 1999 Constitution. Okay, Brestian's 180 billion naira Magboro power plant kicks off science power purchase of agreement with IBEDC. Police interrogate reps member over assault on boat driver. Obaseki, with improved lives of Edo people, restored hope of youth. With a rider, commissions Edo College of Agric institution poised to produce largest agric extension workers in Nigeria. And then one story that is interesting here is Southeast lawmakers may move to block screening of ministerial nominees, say Ogun with 4 ministers is a violation of the 1999 Constitution. And that brings to question our federal character policy of sharing appointments. Chief.
Well, that is something that is for me. It has been on Nigeria. You weep for this country. People simply sit and write names of their cronies and whoever they find favor in, and put their names there without competent test, without any form of test to see that this person qualifies to be given appointment. But I saw a story there that interests me in the rejection by northern governors of the tax reform bill. I have not read that bill, but I find the rejection, the reported rejection of the bill by northern governors curious and unsettling. I mean, why do we consider ourselves as southerners, northerners, easterners? This is Nigeria, for goodness sake. You are of this country. The same constitution. You swore to protect the constitution, rather. The same constitution that Mr. President swore to protect. And you are then suddenly now, are you know, if you look at the oaths of office and pledge, they are that oaths of allegiance, they are so deep in meaning. Now when someone becomes a governor, he suddenly realizes that he's a governor for a particular tribe. No, you are not. You swore to protect the constitution. Now governors of the north, some of these associations, this is why Nigeria is having problems. Northern governors, southern governors, eastern governors, they sit and discuss things. Now, the tax reform law is not a law for the north. It's not a law for the south. It's a law for Nigeria. So why will a group of governors from one region go and sit and begin to agitate as if they are student unions, to agitate against a law that is proposed? Why not go in partnership if you are patriotic, if you have nationalist appeal? Why not have a meeting with your southern counterparts, or raise this thing at the forum of Nigerian governors and discuss it, and come out, meet Mr. President, have an indoor session with Mr. President and say, see, Mr. President, sir, we have seen your tax law, but the bill you have sent to the National Assembly, we think this bill needs to take into cognizance what has reside. Okay, that is the law. That is so. If Mr. President is seeking to review such things, governors of this country should look at themselves as leaders of this country and come together to deliberate, and not a block of northern governors, not a block of eastern governors, or south governors, or southwest governors going to sit and discuss and say, and we in the north feel that this is wrong. Not what? Not what? They should come out and say, look, one of the agitations, one of the things they are complaining about there is that because if you take away the right of state to collect revenue from companies and other people doing business in their state and have headquarters of their business in that state, then you'll be denying them revenue. That is one of the agitations. So should that be a northern issue alone? That shouldn't be a northern issue. It should be a Nigerian issue, because in Lagos State there are companies, in Rivers State there are companies, in Enugu State there are companies, in Kwara State there are companies. So you cannot make it a northern issue. When I hear things like that, I think that we are far away from the national unity that we talk about. We are very far away from it. And unless we begin to look at this country as Nigerians, that is why yesterday I made a video questioning this issue of religion being included in job seeking. When people go for to get jobs, then they are asked to indicate which religion they worship. Religion what? Tribe what? Is it not enough that I'm a Nigerian? Why do you want to know where I worship? So we must begin to question some of these things that divide us rather than looking at, because when Nigeria is playing football, for instance, if Musa scores, we all jubilate. If a maker scores, it is Nigeria that scored. If Shegun scores, it is Nigeria that scored.
Okay, one other thing here that made almost all the papers is about electricity. You find it in The Guardian. It says electricity crisis hits Niger. Others as FG deploys military to protect assets, that is theft in the sector. Again, you come to, when you go to the Daily Trust, we have the bottom there. We will restore electricity to northern states in 5 days.
I want to chip in something quickly. This issue of vandalism of public utilities. I wish to make an appeal to Nigerians who are listening to this program. When we see some people at transformers within our vicinity, not all of those people are from the power holding company. Some of them are vandals, but they come like they are from power holding. Then everybody stands by and watches them. They vandalize the transformer, and in less than how many minutes, there is darkness in that community. Nigerians should wake up and begin to question certain individuals. Even if he's from power holding, he should prove his identity. He should show his identity. If you do not recognize that face, people should begin to question where there is water. People should begin to question if you see someone tampering with a public utility. Find out, what are you doing there? What are you doing in the transformer? Are you an expert in electricity? If the person is not from power holding, we should arrest that person and hand him over to the police or to civil defense or whoever, whichever agency that is nearby. Because when we sit by and watch people vandalize our public utilities, President Tinubu is not residing in my community. He is not. Governor Olia is not living in my community. Okay? So if we allow people to come vandalize electric poles, transformers, and all of that, electricity cables, and go away, then we have darkness. The governor or the president is not living there. The people who will suffer the consequences of such neglect are the community members. So we should begin to look at how we can help government, help the federal government. Power holding cannot be on every street.
Okay, but again, that brings me to this question of asking the system. Sometimes, how do we get to know whether these persons are genuine or they are not? If they provide what they call it, the toll-free numbers, we can call. But in most instances, you don't get to know to verify the person. So
it is easy. Every community, see, if you live on a street, majority of the people on that street are known. Except in highly populated, densely populated cities like Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, where people come in and go. Even at that, people at some faces are known. Not to talk of a community where you have people live a communal life. Everybody is known by their names. If you see a strange face, and I said, even if the person is genuinely from power holding company, approach him, let him prove his identity. If anybody is doing something on a transformer, get close and know what is it they are doing. For instance, you have electricity, and then suddenly you see somebody, climbing an electric pole or tending to do something at a transformer on your street, and you just pass and say, NEPA is there. No, it may not be NEPA. It may be a vandal. So approach the person and find out what is it he's doing. If there is no electricity, go to or send a delegation to the nearest power holding office. Let them explain to you why there is no electricity. Okay? These are things that we can do and not leave everything in the hands of government. Because we as indigents, we as citizens of this country, we have a responsibility to also protect our public utilities and amenities for us to keep enjoying those amenities.
Just before we go, one thing that is trending, on social media, and that's also made its way into the papers, is the assault of the assembly member from, well, I think, following House of Representative, that is Alex, who assaulted
from Abia State.
who assaulted a boat driver.
Yes.
And who bragged that he can eliminate him, he can make him disappear in a matter of days. And now police is probing the guy for his conduct, and they're blasting him for dragging the IGP into the whole issue.
The police should not just drag him for mentioning the IG. See, when I saw that video, I felt really sad. Really sad because Nigerians, especially those who are in high positions, should remember that God is the one who gives power. And he takes power anytime he wants it. Like the foolish man in the Bible who was boasting, and God told him this night, you will lose your life and everything you have. People should have humility. The fact that now he was calling himself senator. He is not a senator. He is in the House of Representatives. Yes, that's the same National Assembly. But why brag with a taxi driver who is doing his job? The job of a boat or Uber driver is not to take property into your house. In fact, when they drive to their destination, the app on their phone tells them you have arrived at your destination. That is where their journey ends. So it is up to you, the person they are bringing, even if they are carrying they are conveying somebody, or they are bringing something to supply, the person who is expecting them is supposed to be where he gave as the address, the destination, all right? And for that House of Assembly member, that House of Reps member, to not just brag, to slap the boat driver, it's very unfortunate, very sad, and I expect. Now, he issued a statement this morning apologizing and said that he has taken notice and is aware of the underpinning issue. So if he is having a mental issue, why did he seek to go to office, to become a House of National Assembly member? If you read between the lines or what he said, it's like he's admitting he has attitude issues. He has a short fuse. So if he has a short fuse, if he has mental issues, why did he seek public office? That someone is serving you, bringing something, a package sent by a friend or somebody else to you, is enough service. You should have, the person drove to the compound, to the gate. That is enough for you to be humble. And in fact, he should have even given him more money. As a big man, he should have given, if the money was going to be 2,000, why not give the boy 10,000, even 20,000? And then you gladly introduce yourself that, come on, I am Honorable Teve Akase. The boy say, hey, Honorable, thank you very much, sir. That is life, okay? So Nigerians should be humble enough, especially those whom God has elevated to be in high positions, in positions of authority. Because humility is the one that will keep you there, and not pride, not that empty pride like we saw in the honorable member from Abia State.
Okay, maybe I will also ask, Fanan also read the whole thing. Fanan, how do you react to that kind of?
Well, I became curious and I went to read about the honorable member, and what I saw was disheartening. He was described as someone who maltreats Nigerians. That's just the description of him online. So, and it's not something befitting of an honorable member like him.
The only thing I have, just like you said, is he said he's a senator, and the fact maybe he could be right. Why, if he's suffering from a mental issue?
That was funny. You are a House of Representatives member, and you are calling yourself in the video. Do you know who I am? I'm a senator of the. I am Senator
Republic.
Come on.
Okay, indeed. So those who occupy public office should know that they have a great responsibility. They have a lot to do, and people are looking up to them to also grab some good things from them. So, well, thank you very sincerely for being part of the show. I want to thank you, Teve Akase. Citizen journalist, thank you for always being here to give your perspective on what make headlines on the papers every day.
It is my pleasure.
And my name is Benjamin Gutav.
And I'm Fanan Kwano. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles, Facebook, YouTube, and a whole lot of them, to watch our programs live and, of course, listen to the radio station. I'll give Radio 95.5 Star FM Makudi.
Okay, bye for now.